Minister Mark Carney will be unveiling the second phase of nation-building projects tomorrow, and sources tell CTV News the list will include mining and energy developments. As of right now, no Alberta pipeline project is confirmed. We say good morning to CTV National News reporter Annie Bergeron-Oliver, joining us from Ottawa this morning. So, Annie, what do we know about what's coming tomorrow?
Good morning, Kent. Well, we know that tomorrow the Prime Minister is expected to make an announcement in Prince Rupert, BC, and there he's going to talk about how the Major Projects Office is going to be looking at 4 additional projects. One is a nickel mine in Ontario, one is a hydroelectric development in Iqaluit, there's going to be the Sisson mine in New Brunswick, as well as an LNG project in British Columbia. Now, these are projects that the Prime Minister says the office will look at for fast-tracked approval. The Major Projects Office, its mandate is to try to streamline the approval process to get through the regulatory framework faster so that projects that he deems or the office deems in the national interest can start construction and can get built. And this is because if you looked at the most recent budget, the Prime Minister's budget really does focus on getting a lot of these energy and resource projects built so that they can start exporting, especially to non-U.S. markets, to help stimulate the economy. Now, this is sort of to be expected. The Prime Minister did announce that the second tranche of projects would be announced before the Grey Cup, which is on Sunday. Now, it is expected that this announcement again will come tomorrow in Prince Rupert, but it's also important to point out that just because these projects are being highlighted by the Major Projects Office as potential projects of national interest does not mean they're 100% going to get approved. It just means that the government is highlighting these as projects that it wants this Major Projects Office to look at to really make sure that this review can be fast-tracked.
So some of these projects being fast-tracked because of Bill C-5, could this result in some legal challenges down the road if we're pointing in the direction of these projects?
Well, Bill C-5 was fairly controversial. It did pass. But why was it controversial? It's because there were a lot of groups that felt that it would allow the federal government to overstep consultations with First Nations groups or with environmental assessments, that it basically meant that the government could kind of just stamp over top of anything, any project it wanted could then get approved. Now, some of these projects already do have some legal challenges that they're facing. For example, this LNG project in British Columbia, while it's being supported by one First Nations group, there are 2 other First Nations groups who have filed different challenges legally against the project, in part because they say it's not good for the environment. There's also this nickel mine, for example. If you look at that one just north of Timmins, it has faced about a decade so far of challenges, both environmental and legal. So a number of these projects already have legal challenges or environmental challenges facing them. What the government is hoping that if it gets the national interest designation, that this Major Projects Office will be able to kind of move it through very quickly to be able to get it built. So far, none of these projects that have been considered by the Major Projects Office actually have that stamp of approval as a nation-building project. That is something that Cabinet has to ultimately give. And if that stamp of approval is given, what the Major Projects Office promises, Kent, is that these projects can make it through the approval process, make it through the full regulatory framework with a review done in 2 years.
Okay, well, a lot to consider and certainly more coming tomorrow. Alberta's Premier hoping for a pipeline. Annie, thank you.
Thank you.